going to help them control the ball a little more often, which will keep that defense well rested. And here's the biggest thing. They're facing the Browns. Now, the Browns, I think, are going to be a surprise team this year. I think they're going to do very well. However, I don't think they're going to be putting up a lot of points doing it. Even if the Browns can pull off the upset, I would expect this one to be a low-scoring game, somewhere around the lines of 10-14 or 7-12, something along those lines. I don't think you're going to see either team put up 20-plus in this game, and that'll keep your points at a high level for your defense. So if you got Miami, I'd play them. The other one I'd play is Tampa Bay. Now, Tampa Bay has made a lot of splash with its offense, with Doug Martin coming on the scene, Josh Freeman stepping up and throwing 27 touchdowns, their acquisition of Vincent Jackson. They've also got a fairly solid defense, and they had one of the biggest free agent steals of the offseason in getting Darrelle Revis, who is the best corner in the NFL. Revis is going to be healthy, he's starting week 1, and he's going to be back with a vengeance against the team that traded him away, which is the Jets. And even though it's in the Meadowlands, the Jets are a god-awful team. They were going to start Sanchez, who got injured in the preseason, and now they're starting their second-round rookie, Geno Smith, who their coach called awful. Their coach called their starting quarterback awful. That should tell you all you need to know about the offensive capabilities of the Jets. And they're putting all their faith in offense on Chris Ivory, who was the New Orleans Saints fourth back last year, behind Pierre Thomas, Mark Ingram, and Darren Sproles. So they've got some other team's fourth running back, no quarterback to speak of, Santonio Holmes, who's coming off of 2 foot surgeries, a questionable offensive line, and a severely diminished defense. I think this one's going to be a blowout and probably one of the most lopsided games of the week. So I would take Tampa Bay because I would be surprised if the Jets could even score a touchdown in this game. And my third defense for you to start, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs have got a ton of talent. Don't let that 2-14 record last year fool you. They were sandbagged by a bad coach and a bad quarterback. Both of those issues are fixed this year. And they're playing the Jaguars, who are notorious for their offensive struggles. They're in Jacksonville, but again, Kansas City is a very, very talented team that's now got a coach who's going to put up points in mass on this team. Start Kansas City. Again, I would not expect the Jaguars to get out of single-digit scoring in this one. And that's the 3 to avoid and the 3 to start for this week in fantasy. If you've got any fantasy tips or questions or anything you want to know, give me a call, 630-534-0779. Drop me a tweet at the CSBS. And if you want to know something for next week's too, you can call me during the week. You can leave a voice message. You can tweet me. You can email me at cmstanton2@gmail.com. I'm here all week, and if I don't talk to you in person, I'll talk about your stuff on the air next week as well. Going from fantasy to real life, the biggest story of the week has been undoubtedly the storyline about concussions. Specifically, the NFL and the NFLPA's agreement for giving money and compensation to the retired players. So I'm going to break this down for you. The agreement, as it is the NFL will pay $765 million, and this will go towards medical exams, it'll underwrite research, and it will go to settlement towards the retired players who are suffering. There are 1,800 retired players who will overall benefit from this settlement because of the extra research and medical payments and exams that are going to be added. But the 4,500 who were the plaintiffs will also get settlements. And that settlement number can be capped depending on what they have. If they have Alzheimer's or advanced dementia, a maximum amount they can receive is $5 million in compensation, and then so on down based on severity of illness. What the NFL gets in return is that this agreement, according to the players and according to the league, in no way places the blame or is an admission of guilt. So basically, by accepting this agreement, the players and the plaintiffs are saying the NFL and football is not responsible for their concussions and that they are not guilty of what they are being accused of. This is, like they said, a settlement. The NFL has 20 years to pay the full amount, But here's the catch. They have to pay half of it, a full half, within the first 3 years. And that's the linchpin of this agreement. They're paying that much money real close, because a lot of these guys who have the advanced dementia and Alzheimer's, they're not going to be around in 20 years. That wouldn't affect them at all, because they, quite frankly, are going to be dead. But by getting it in the next 3 years, there's going to be real and immediate help to the people who need it the most. So a lot of people are talking about how the players have gotten screwed on this deal, how the teams could have paid more, because per team, they're only paying 15 to 20 million per team over the course of 20 years. That's not that much. However, the immediate impact of this deal is going to substantially help and prolong the lives of a lot of these plaintiffs who, before now, were probably living in almost poverty with the amount of medical bills that they had to pay. So that is the reason why they accepted what a lot of people perceive to be a unfair deal towards the players. And here's some of the other things. The NFL is also agreeing to pay the lawyer fees. That will not come out of the $765 million due to the plaintiffs. The NFL is going to pay the $200+ million price tag on the legal fees of this class action lawsuit. And here's the real genius of the settlement. It's happening before the season starts. So at no point during this season are we going to have to hear about ongoing legal action, motions being filed, delayed tactics, or anything like that. Nothing like that is going to distract us from our football this year, which is in everyone's best interest. Because let's face it, if you're like me, you don't watch football to be told about the legal status of the league or the legal status of the disgruntled retired players. No, you watch it to enjoy yourself, to be entertained. And I don't want to hear about litigation. I do that for a living. I'm a lawyer. I don't want to get off of work and then on my weekend hear about legal trials and motions and stipulations. I want to watch football. That's what I want to do. And like I said, they're also getting the quick settlement. The people who need to be helped are getting help. So I think everybody turns out to be a winner in this one. Give me your opinions on it. Tweet me at the CSBS. Email me at cmstanton2@gmail.com or give me a call, 630-534-0779. And just for those of you who are wondering, here's how the prices are going to be broken down. There's going to be $10 million that's going to go into a research and education fund. The primary goal of this fund is to create a medium for researching and studying the short and long-term effects of all brain trauma, concussions, mild cranial injury, things of that nature. $75 million is going to go for the baseline brain testing over the next 10 years, which means players, both former and current, will be paid for by the NFL for all their testing needed for, again, cranial injuries, concussions, and the like. And then the bulk of it, the $675 million, goes towards the compensation pool to compensate all the plaintiffs and retirees involved with this case. So like I said, at first it may seem like the NFL is pulling one over on the players, but in actuality, it's a very good deal for both sides. The league is going to have its season unencumbered by legal affairs and legal fees and all that mumbo-jumbo, and the players who need the help are going to be getting it within the next couple of years, if not sooner. So, good deal, worked out for everyone. Now we can go forward and enjoy football. Our next segment is brought to you by T-Lander and T-Lander. Being arrested or accused of a crime can be a life-altering experience. So if you find yourself in that situation, you need the best representation. With a combined 60-plus years of experience, T-Lander and T-Lander can handle any situation, from traffic tickets to felony charges. Based out of DuPage County, T-Lander and T-Lander is the firm you need to get the results you want. Call now at 630-858-0880 to set up your consultation. T-Lander and T-Lander, simply the best. Our next segment is one that I've designed because I want to leave people with a good taste in their mouth. You know, in this shock jock era, many times in radio you just hear the rumor mongering and the negative aspects of stories. So I like to bring out some stories that we can all enjoy and kind of renew our faith in sports. Former linebacker Scott Fujita, who used to play for the Saints and the Browns, is now a regular correspondent for the New York Times and for FoxSports.com. He wrote a great article last week that I think everybody should read, and it's about being cut at the end of training camp. He's a journeyman linebacker who, as I just mentioned, played for multiple teams, and he knows firsthand from both the player who's been cut perspective and from the teammate perspective what those final cut down days are like in the locker room for the people involved, for the families, and he writes a very moving and very provocative piece for the New York Times talking about that perspective and that situation. And I love these kind of stories, seeing a player who his entire year was a journeyman player, maximized his abilities, and got what he could out of the league. Not just, the money and not just the fame of playing in the NFL, but also making use of the classes and the teachings and the opportunities that these professional leagues give to their players. A lot of people don't know. Leagues like the NFL, the NBA, they give personalized training in things like broadcasting, money management, business acumen, investment portfolios, entrepreneurship. Basically, going to a professional league is going almost to a private college with a lot less people and more directed tutoring. And here's a guy who really made use of that and is now a successful writer writing for the New York Times. And this isn't like Peyton Manning, right? But it's Scott Fujita. He played for the Browns and the Saints. And it's a guy who, in his entire career, never was in any trouble. He was president of the NFL Players Association, and the only controversy he ever was involved in was the scandal with the Saints, the injury scandal where they were targeting people and purposely trying to injure them. And he was one of the 4 that was originally suspended, but when he appealed, his suspension was thrown out completely. It was ruled that he had nothing to do with it, and he was completely exonerated of all those charges and allegations. So it's nice to see a guy like him with a life after football, especially when we hear so often about the debilitating diseases, the brain traumas, like Junior Seau, the suicide. It's nice to see a guy who went into the NFL, stayed out of trouble, maximized his time there, and is now a great contributor in another area of life. So good for him. And like I said, go back and read that article for the New York Times. It's a really good one, and it gives you a lot of perspective and a lot of compassion for what these guys go through during those final cut-down days. Another bit of good news, Robert Griffin III, RG3, is officially announced to start Week 1 against the Eagles. This is a great thing. I'm not necessarily a Redskins fan. I've got nothing against or for the team. Just ever lived in Washington, D.C. I have no affinity for him. But RG3 is a great player. He's great for the league. He's fun to watch. He's charismatic. He's an entertainer. And for those of you who listen to me regularly, you know I'm all about being entertained by sports, by shows, by whatever it takes. But when you sit down and watch your 3.5 hour game, you want to be entertained. He does that with his play on the field, with his post-press conferences, his pre-press conferences. Very fun guy. Last week we were talking about how he got fined $10,000 for wearing the Operation Patience t-shirt, but it's nice to know that the patience paid off and that he's going to be starting Week 1 against a division rival in the Eagles, and that'll be a game to watch. You've got RG3 coming back healthy, and that pistol offense that they've pretty much invented, that the whole NFL has copied, against Chip Kelly's Eagles and that high-octane offense that he's installed. That's going to be must-see TV. So I can't wait. I'm glad that he's healthy. I'm glad that he's starting, and hopefully he can stay healthy the entire year and have a good run, because that team, with him healthy, can do a lot of damage. In fact, I predicted that that was going to be one of my Super Bowl teams come the end of the year, and it's all based on RG3's health. Another good thing, we've been talking mostly about football today, but I got to go back to baseball. It's the last month of the season before the playoffs start, and there are some fantastic races going on. Think of it this way. Right now, for the last wild card spot, there are 5 teams within 5 games.
Holy cow!
In the AL, you've got the Tampa Bay Rays, who are currently got